Jamie, just watching online right there. Okay. Yeah. But I don't have to do anything different. There's nothing different I have to do. I don't have to do anything different. Right? Oh, yeah, okay. Go do. Good evening. I'm calling the Monday, January 27th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting to order. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Let's get started tonight. We have the approval of the agenda this evening. Does anyone want to change the agenda? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the agenda this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. We have minutes from our last meeting on January 13th. Any concerns about the minutes or requests for edits to the minutes? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from January 13th, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. We have two public hearings this evening. The first is a variance for number 2025-01BOA-8107 Eden Prairie Road. The proposed variance would allow for the subject property to have a 39% impervious surface coverage within the shoreline overlay district. City code limits impervious surface coverage within the shoreline overlay district 30%. The purpose of this request is to add additional parking spaces for Smith Coffee at the historic Smith Douglas Morehouse property. Would the proponent of the project please come forward?
That would be Mr. Chair. So what we have today is, as you kind of described, is a request for additional impervious surface at the Smith Coffee property at 8107 Eden Prairie Road. Basically, what the applicant is doing is wanting to expand the amount of parking. This property is in the Shoreland zoning district, Shoreland overlay zoning district. And on the screen, you can see a little portion of the property is kind of shaded yellow. That is the portion of the property that's in the shoreland. And if a property touches the shoreland, which is defined as an area 1,000 feet from any identified water body, that property is in the Shoreland overlay zoning district. And in for those properties, the impervious surface area is capped at 30%. This property is already at 36.8% impervious surface with the parking lot and some of the concrete pads and other features of the property. What they're looking to do is do a modest expansion of the parking lot and increasing that up to 39% impervious surface. Here on the screen, you'll see the kind of existing overhead aerial photo showing the parking lot and the building, the patio area south of the building there. The existing kind of configuration showing all the impervious surface is in peach, I guess. On the screen in front of you, you see a couple existing rain gardens, which we've already, as a city, tried to improve the water quality coming off of this property in the past. The proposal is part of the proposal that's triggering this variance is there's a large cedar tree that will be removed at the lower kind of portion where my cursor is. That will be removed, and then that area will be paved for additional parking, for 2 parking stalls. An island kind of near the front door, that will be paved over, and two parking stalls will be added there. One of those being a compact parking space because of the size of that area. And then also another parking space is envisioned for kind of another area just near the front entryway as shown on my screen here. All of these will be done in phases. The intention is to kind of build into them over the next couple years or so. But we're asking for the variance to kind of accommodate all of that additional impervious surface. And so it goes from, as proposed, goes from 36.8% impervious surface to about 39%. The 6 spaces that would be added, excuse me, are shown here on the aerial photo. We have the 2 where the tree is, kind of where my cursor is. We have the 2 in the open space adjacent to the front entry to the coffee shop. And then the additional one here just south of this black car here. And then the 6th space is kind of repainting this hatched in area, and that will be a parking space. A handicap parking space needs to be adjacent to a loading or offloading ramp or an area which is still maintained with this hatched in area. So we're still meeting the requirements of the ADA parking there. So 6 spaces would be added. We need impervious surface basically to accommodate 5 of those spaces. A couple of things to note about the site plan. One, there is a kind of a historical pamphlet is not the word I want to use, a little bracket here for some historical information near the front door. That will be relocated near the front door to, again, provide some information as to the history of the property, but obviously will be in the way of a parking space there, so we'll have to adjust that location. Also, there is a tree that's in this island that will be relocated somewhere on site, or likely will be replanted somewhere on site. The tree, the cedar tree here, that will not be replaced, but we have talked as a city-owned property about adding some additional landscaping kind of within the property to help maintain the current level of landscaping. But as I mentioned before, we do have rain gardens adjacent to the parking lot that have already added some additional landscaping there. Staff is recommending approval of the impervious surface variance, increasing it to 39%. A couple of things I shouldn't have mentioned earlier. The goal with the Shoreland Zoning District is kind of several goals, but some of the more common ones are view into the property from the lake, and then water quality of water entering the lake. In this area, or this property is in the lake, or the Mitchell Lake Shoreland Zoning District, or Shoreland area. And obviously you can't see this property from Mitchell Lake. And then the water that drains, that falls on the property and drains from the property actually goes to Red Rock Lake. So this water through a series of wetlands and catch basins and pipes goes to Red Rock Lake, not Mitchell Lake. And so there's no impact to Mitchell Lake in terms of shoreland goals there. So staff is recommending approval, and I'd stand for any questions.
Just one that I had off the gate is, was there a variance from 30 to 36% before, or was that like an existing condition?
We did not find one from before. This was approved around the time, or maybe right before the shoreline rules came in place in terms of the parking lot. Obviously, the building's been there for a number of years, but we didn't find any history of a previous variance. So this would be a legal non-conforming type of situation, but we're expanding that, so that's where the variance is required.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for the city?
Yes, Jeremy, back on the picture you showed, in the center of the parking lot, was there discussions or there was information about removing a light pole and doing some resurfacing of the center parking area currently?
Mr. Taylor, yes. This screen, I think, may show that a little bit clearer. There's a light pole near the front entry or front door to the coffee shop. One of the potential expansions of parking adds basically another parking space near where my cursor is, just north of where that light pole is. The idea is if we can fit cost is a factor. So if we could fit a parking space in that area and not impact that light, that is more economical, a parking space to add. But this proposal really doesn't necessarily propose removing that light at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Chair, Commissioner Fart.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, Jeremy, I appreciate all your explanations about the shoreland buffer and the way you explained it, and I agree with everything you said. It seems to beg for us to change the definition of a shoreland buffer, because on my tenure at the commission, we've seen to come across a number of these situations where it's either the water is draining the other way, doesn't make any difference from a water quality standpoint, or else there's intervening uses between the body of water and the property, such as, well, County Road 4, for one, and maybe topography. And maybe there could be a better definition of that shoreland buffer that would exempt some pretty obvious properties like this from compliance.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Fart, that's an interesting comment. Um, The shoreline rules comes down from DNR. And so they have a model ordinance, and while we do tweak that occasionally, in fact, we're going through a revision of the shoreline review or shoreline ordinance currently, and you'll probably see that in the next month or so. We don't want to depart too far, so we're kind of picking our battles in terms of what's most important. And this we can handle pretty cleanly with a variance when it suits the purpose. But there are certain things that you'll see in probably a couple months in terms of other areas where we're recommending some deviations from the model ordinance that DNR puts out.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Duncan?
Just one question, Jeremy, regarding the timeline of implementation. Did you mention this will take a couple of years before these parking stalls are added? Is that what I heard?
My understanding is so the city owns the property, but we rent it out to Smith Coffee folks. And my understanding is they want to do at least some of the parking spaces immediately, like when spring lets up, which will likely include the cedar tree removal. The other ones would occur as time and budget allow. So I said 2 to 3 years. It could be indefinite, but I would imagine it's not going to all happen at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? All right. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to come forward and put something on the record for or against this project, please come up now. Good evening. If you would state your name for the record and
Yes, my name is Brian Lubben, L-U-B-B-E-N. I live at 16379 Glory Lane in Prairie, so just a block south of where this is. I just wanted to, we're really happy to be in the neighborhood here. We've lived here about 2 years. Smith Coffee has been a big part of that. We love having it in the community here. I don't know the owners or anybody connected with it, but they really produce a great product. They employ young people, teach them a lot. This is a historic building that really is a landmark on Eden Prairie Road. It would be hard to imagine Eden Prairie Road without Smith Coffee on it, at least from what I conceive. So I just hope that you'll consider this and approve the measure and give them a little more room to get some parking in there, which is desperately needed. They're really busy, which is great. We like to see businesses that are doing well, and this is one of them. Thank you.
thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward? Okay. Not seeing anyone else, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing and a further discussion.
Motion to close. Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Would anyone like to have further discussion about this request?
I concur with our one person at the public hearing. I think it's pretty obvious solution with virtually no downside from the water quality standpoint. So I think it's a good move, and Smith Coffee is an asset to the community, so let's let them have a few more parking places.
Anyone else? Comments? I've definitely been there when it's hard to find parking, so I think it's a good move too. No further discussion or concerns? I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would entertain a motion to approve the variance as represented in the staff report.
A motion from Commissioner Duncan. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second from Commissioner Farr. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And would anyone like to abstain? All right. Congratulations, Jeremy. You can move forward. All right. Moving on this evening, our second public hearing. There's a code amendment, Chapter 11 zoning code 2024-03CA. The proposed code amendment corrects errors found after recodifying the zoning code in 2023. This amendment is not a shift in policy, but is a housekeeping amendment. Jeremy, you'll be presenting this one, I assume?
Yes, thank you, Chair, Commissioners. As you, again, summarized very clearly or cleanly, you may recall a couple years ago, we kind of reorganized Chapter 11. And in so doing, I think it was a 30-page ordinance, and we missed a couple things, to be honest. So what this ordinance does is kind of correct a couple things that we should have caught initially. Does not represent a change in policy or change in philosophy. It's just we're cleaning up some things that we noted. A couple paragraphs are dropped here or there that were in the code before. We just missed them, or some labels were misapplied, that type of thing. The ordinance that's attached describes all of those kind of changes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of those specific ones. But we just were, there were other areas, maybe a spelling error happened. We made a decision on what changes would be incorporated in this change, because as you know, anytime we make a change to a code, it's published in the paper and there's some expense to that. So we looked for the things that needed to be changed that could alter the intention of the code, but without changing the philosophy or the policy of the zoning code. So staff is recommending approval of these housekeeping change. And I'm cautious using the word housekeeping because I don't want to overuse that, but this really is a housekeeping measure, just cleaning up some things that we noted in the last year and a half or so since we last adopted a rewrite of Chapter 11.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any questions? Yep, Commissioner Weber.
The definitions that are being added, are those being taken from somewhere else, or are those new definitions?
They're being relocated from within the code. So part of our analysis, the area there in the zoning code or in other sections of the city code, we didn't want to change philosophy or policy, so we just relocated them from elsewhere.
So when do we vote on taking those out of the other section? Well, it's not in this proposal here that,
So you're only seeing Chapter 11 here.
right?
If it's coming out of a different zoning, or excuse me, a different section, that doesn't necessarily need to be reviewed by the planning commission. That would just be reviewed by the council, the city council.
Okay. Thanks.
If there is a section, if there's a code or a definition that you're uncomfortable with or anything like that, I think that's a conversation for another time, and we can certainly explore those. At this time, we were just looking at housekeeping changes.
I was just more curious on the housekeeping part, whether we were eliminating the definitions from a different section and what we needed to do to accomplish that. But if the city council does it, then we don't need to.
Yeah, you don't need to, the city council does that.
Gotcha.
Okay. Other questions for the city? All right, this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to come forward and speak about this request, please do so now. No? Okay. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second to close the public hearing?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The public hearing is closed. Any further discussion on this item? It's a softball, right? Housekeeping item? Yeah. All right. All right, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mr. Chair, I move to recommend approval of Chapter 11 Code Amendment as represented today in the staff report.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Taylor to approve. Do I have a second?
Second?
And a second for Commissioner Weber to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And would anyone like to abstain? Okay. Moves forward. Congratulations again, Jeremy. Do you have any planners reports this evening?
Just briefly, we will have a meeting in February, I want to say February 10th. Another variance, and I think maybe a zone change in that one. We had 0 variances in 2024, and we're likely going to have 3 in 2025, but all seem reasonable at this stage.
Great. Any reports from our members? Nope. All right, entertaining motion to adjourn the meeting, not close.
So moved.
All right, second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody.